Welcome back to this week's episode of Implicit Bias. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. It is weekly whiskey time on Implicit Bias. But first, let me introduce you to the crew that we have here in the Mr. Lester's top secret podcast lair. Sitting in the chair, much like mine, he's just facing a different direction. He also has a beard, is a little bit taller, and is a lot more foul. He is the Rustic Renegade. He is Caleb Morris. Am I wrong?
Nah, all of the adjectives were proper.
Where's the lie?
No,
That's what I thought.
I cannot disprove anything.
It's okay. You know why? Because I guess it's your implicit bias. So It's all right. That's it. Outstanding. Okay, at the bar, we have Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. Rene Girard is back with us. He's got the ashtray on the bar. He does not have a lit stogie. Rene, did you bring a stogie to chew on for this episode?
No, I didn't, because, I'm always too tempted to light it, and I know I'll get fussed at. So I just decided this time I'm not bringing one.
Okay, so here's what we're going to have to figure out. What we're going to have to figure out is, was it actually, because we were told, and we can give some transparency with this. We were told that it was the landlord at the time who didn't want us to actually smoke cigars on the show. I am wondering now, because I try to think critically, I am wondering if that was all Sam. Rest in peace. I'm just wondering.
I think you just put 2 and 2 together and got 12.
Well, we need to talk to the landlord personally.
There you go.
Handle that.
I will handle that. I will handle that. We will have a conversation.
Because there is like 4 of us here that do smoke cigars.
Yeah, there's multiples. Yeah. Some are on camera, some are not. The other person who's on camera, we're going to introduce you to Grant Galatas of William S. Snake Called Jewelers. Grant, it's great to have you back.
Thank you, sir. Glad to have you in. Your arms tired flying in?
Look, for those who didn't catch our Facebook post when we gave away really one of the last sets of tickets for Winner Implicit Dinner, which is going to be Saturday, November 16th at Mr. Lester Steakhouse. The menu is off the charts. Hotels are provided. Mr. Lester has taken care of everyone that Implicit Bias is bringing. But I was actually in Chicago the morning that we recorded this episode and literally got off the plane, picked up my bag, and drove straight to the TSPL and made it with about 5 minutes to spare. It just happened to work out that way. So my arms are not tired. We don't have a rim shot for that, the dun dun. Yeah, so I'm good, but thank you. Dear Lord. All right, but you know what I am happy for, Grant? I am happy that we have weekly whiskey. And I am thrilled for another weekly whiskey that we're going to sample. We'll taste it. We'll let you know what we think. And we're going to let you know maybe where you can find it, because I'm sure you can find it in the Weekly Whiskey Network for those listening outside of Lafayette, whether you're in New Orleans, Monroe, Vidalia. We go all the way into Ruston. We go all the way to Shreveport. You can find this, which I love because it's not unobtainium. Caleb, you want to tell us about what it is? Because you have the Implicit Bias Whiskey Tasting Journal already in your grubby fingers.
I do, and I've already filled things out. But do you want to introduce the other person?
In a few minutes.
Okay, that's fine by me.
Yeah, we're going to wait.
So this is one, I actually was trying to figure out where it came from, because it doesn't really say blatantly on the
distillery.
Label. It just says, it says Distillers. I'm going to say Cachet. It could be Cash, but there's no accent aigu.
Correct. There's no accent, which would make it cachet.
Yeah.
I mean, which would make it cash, not cachet, because the accent would make it cachet.
Correct, but I've never heard it pronounced cash.
Well,
it's always been cachet.
Caramel.
It's a caramel. It's a cachet. A cachet is like you find a weapon cachet. You find a cachet of cash. You find
there's
a cachet.
an E on the end. The E is silent. So wouldn't it be cache?
I think that's pronounced quiche.
Quiche is spelled with a Q.
Yes, it is. All right, so this is Distiller's Cachet, rarefied, a limited release, single barrel, and then I didn't read the bottom before I sampled.
Oh, so you didn't know the proof on it?
No, I knew the proof.
Oh, okay.
Because it looks like I wrote it, which means a 4-year-old. But I didn't know what it was finished in.
Okay, I'm gonna take a guess on this one. I'm gonna say sherry.
No.
Really? Okay.
No.
Well, port.
Yep.
It was either sherry or port.
It's got a little sweetness to it.
It's got that wininess to it. But it comes from the Ugly Dog Distillery, which I am not familiar with.
Neither am I.
This is the first Ugly Dog sampling I've had, which I find it funny that they use Ugly Dog, because the pointer on there is not an ugly dog. That is a beautiful dog. This is a distillery that I know very, very little about. Actually, all I know about is what's on the bottle.
So okay, let's then start with what notes you found on this.
No age statement. 94 proof, which comes in really good. Now on the nose of this one, immediately I get a wine-like substance on the nose of it, right? Then followed by a woodiness and earthiness to it. Like if you ever open up a nice Cabernet, and you get that whiff, that wafting that comes out of it, that's what it kind of hints in the beginning. And then on the taste, out the gate, the initial flavor I got was thin, it was fleeting, and then the wine kind of crept in. But then it was leggy. I noticed length. And then I got... have you ever, whenever you went, when we first started buying fruit, going and you're like, I really want plums today.
Here we go.
Yeah. So you're like, I really want to get
Is
some
this like
plums.
an outdoor fruit market or is this an indoor grocery store?
Well,
because I know it makes a difference as far as
it does now that I've gotten older.
Okay.
But in the beginning, I went like, a fruit market indoors, not like a regular grocery store.
Was it in this country or another country?
This was actually in South Korea.
Well, there you go. You
So-
see? You got to
and-
be specific with Caleb.
I didn't know how to pick plums. So I picked all these plums that were young, right? And when I bit into them, they were like, it wasn't crazy sour, but it was just tart enough where you get that tart sourness and then the fruity flavor. And you're like, ooh, there's the plum.
So you had young plums that were sour and then got sweet? Is that what I'm hearing you tell me?
The first part of that statement. But that's what I get in the middle of the palate. I get like a not ripe plum, a little bit of sourness, and then you get the plum flavor followed by what I can only describe as leather. And then there's like a little flavor, and the only way I can word it is old. After the plum and the leather, I get like an older flavor that I can't really define yet, where it just I taste the age of the liquor. But it's got legs, man. This thing, the flavor really lasts.
Yeah.
It's really drawn out. It's interesting. One of the better port finishes I've ever had.
Which says a lot because normally
Yeah.
the Rustic Renegade, absolutely, if it says port
No.
finish,
Or
the
it's
first
normally
words out of
way
his
too
mouth
sweet.
are, I don't
wine,
like it.
Or normally wine finishes. He
Yeah.
doesn't like.
They're normally
because of
way
that.
too sweet, and this one's
Right.
not. You got the
And
tartness and everything else.
This
it's
one I
just
noticed
pretty enjoyable.
it sticks to the glass too.
Yeah, that's
You
that
got-
legginess to
yeah,
it.
Yeah,
It just drags it on.
Yeah, it's a good.
So.
It's a good pour.
Okay, so Renee, it sounds like you like this one.
Yes, I do. There's flavors I'm picking up. I can't describe. I can't pinpoint the flavors, but the flavors are all coming together. The flavors are all coming together. What I like. It just it's under 100 proof, which that's right in my wheelhouse. It's got a real good flavors to it. This would get me in trouble.
Oh, well, this and others, right? I mean, hey, we
yeah,
can all. You never know. You never know when Drunkle's going to show up.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true, and it's okay. It's all right, but
He's always
multiples
invited.
can make it happen. Yes, he is.
I'm almost out, by the way. So
That's impressive. That's good.
Yeah. All right, Grant. What about you? What do you think about this one?
Well, seeing as how my plums are a little bit older, I do get that. I don't know. It's at first I was thinking lemony, but it got a little bit more fruity than lemon. I don't know if I can do that, but the plum, the citrusy, I do get that. I agree with Caleb. Did you know? Did you have a couple of good sips before you realized and read the back that it was the port? Did you taste the port?
I had
You just
probably
trying to put your
half of this
finger on it?
glass, and I was like, man, what is
What
that?
is it?
Like, it's winey, it's this, it's got to be something. And I started thinking, I'm like, that's a finish. And I'm trying to read it when I was up there, and I was like, it says port on it.
Right.
So-
Yeah, I mean, I guess that accounts for the fruity, the nice little fruit taste to it. But at 94, I'd love to taste this a little bit higher proof.
I think at like 105, 110, you would probably lose some of that sweetness, and you'd be able to put your finger on the more distinct flavors. But at 94 proof, this is a wonderful medley of flavor.
So let's introduce him now. He's not on camera, but we do hear from him every now and then. He's not the voice from the ether. The voice from the ether is John Mode, who we are going to have on the show soon because we are working on some technology to do some interesting thing to bring some guests in. But Walker Griffon is here. So Walker, first of all, thank you for being out. You got here early. Like normally you have a show and you were here early.
I pre-recorded my show after my dad's show.
Oh, look at you getting creative, figuring out how to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing the same work. You're just doing it in less amount of time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool.
Just not as spaced out.
All right. So what do you think of this Distiller's Cachet, rare find, whatever it might be, but this Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey finished in port wine barrels?
I like it. I do get like the fruitiness, kind of like Grant said, off of it, but it's not my favorite. But it's not terrible. Something that I would drink.
That is such a mature description. By the way, sarcasm should be a font. Anyway.
It's not terrible.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what I find interesting about this. Number one, I got the wine off of this, the heavy winey on the palate. But this is the first whiskey I've ever had where I get more flavor 3 to 4 seconds after I swallow the liquid than I do when it hits the palate. Right? The finish on this is so long. Go ahead. I know y'all are laughing.
I'm keeping it together. I'm professional, and I'm keeping it together.
Really? Really?
Yeah. We know better. We know better. It's okay. We know better. Anyway, there's more flavor on this on the finish than there is when it hits the palate. It's just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, it stretches it out so long. I think you have time to really digest the flavor that's there because the legs on this, the length that it stays on the palate is really surprising.
I find this highly agreeable. This is an easy, light drinker. So if you've got somebody who's new to bourbon, somebody who's new to whiskey, this to me is really, really easy to drink. I'm looking at the color in the glass. It's a light color, and that is very indicative of the flavors that you get. You don't get the big caramels with this. You don't get those heavy, spicy flavors that you get with some really good bourbons and some really good ryes. But this does have just a really unique sipping quality to it that is very different from, I think, really anything we've ever had on the show.
Yeah, it's not, most of the port finishes and then all the others, they're so sweet, but this is a more refined sweetness to it. This is, I wouldn't call it a dessert bourbon, but it's definitely an evening drinker.
I could see this as a midday afternoon to me. It's because it is so light. The flavors, they don't hit you. They don't kick you in the teeth. They kind of sit there and linger, and they're very comforting on the back end of the palate.
It's almost like an appetizer bourbon. It's what you
That
would
might be
drink
a
to
good way
start.
to put it.
Because it's light enough that you start off with that, and then you can progress with the heavier, stronger flavors. It's got a lot of flavor, but it's not over. None of the flavors are very overpowering.
Appetizer bourbon might be a good way to put it. Like, because midday, if I'm drinking bourbon, I want something that punches me in the mouth.
Yeah, this is like a morning bourbon.
So if you're listening in any of our other markets like New Orleans or Vidalia or Natchez, Mississippi, Ruston or Monroe, or even right outside of Shreveport, the time that you're listening is probably about the time when Renee thinks he should start drinking this.
Yes.
Renee.
6 a.m.
Renee.
7 a.m.
You might be going past a hobby. I'm just saying. Just saying. We got to keep it a hobby.
I said it before. You're evil, Kavan.
Am I holding you down and forcing you to drink whiskey? No.
The last time that we were all together, I think I saw that.
Nope. That does not happen. All right, so let's talk about where we'd rate this on the Morse Whiskey rating code. For those who might be new to the show, it might be your first time catching us. Red, I wouldn't drink it even if it was free. Yellow, I would only drink it if it was free. Green, I would buy this. Blue, I would seek this out. So we're going to start with Walker. And while we're doing that, Grant, I'm going to ask you, there's a drawer right there in the bar. I'm going to ask you to swing it open. Don't look at the piece of paper, but there's a piece of paper in there, and please hand that to me. Thank you very much.
There's two of them in here.
I will tell you if this is...
There's two of them in here.
Don't read it. Don't read it.
Nope, that one's fine. That one's old.
Okay.
That one's old. Okay, because what we are going to do is we are going to play What Would You Pay With This as well. Is the belt chain here somewhere?
it's right
the
here.
belt chain's up there. We just couldn't see it.
It was hidden.
Yeah, it's on the bar.
Angle.
All right, Walker. So let's start with, where do you rate this on the Morse Whiskey rating code?
Yellow.
Okay, a yellow. What would you pay?
54.
$54 and a yellow. Let's go to the bar. Renee, we'll start with you.
I'd give it a green, and I would say 60.
60. All right, Grant?
I'm gonna give it a green also. I'm gonna say, you said 50, Walker?
You said 54.
54. Oh, okay, I'm up 49.
49. All right, Caleb.
To me, it's a green. I mean, I would spend money on this. Of all the ports that I've drank, the port finishes, this is definitely the one that I would be the more apt to buy.
Okay.
So definitely a green. Man, I'm gonna go 58.
58. All right. I'm with Walker on this one. This for me is a yellow. It is not bad at all. It just doesn't hit the flavor profile that I really like in a whiskey or a bourbon. So this one, it's almost a little... They did a really good job with the port barrel finish, and it is a little winey. It's not necessarily over winey, but it leans towards that side. And that, I think, is what makes it a yellow for me. The winner of the What Would You Pay Championship Belt Chain presented by Box Drop. Need a mattress? Go find Box Drop. Grant Galatas. This is a $41.79 bottle of whiskey. $41.79.
That is impressive. Look at you.
Which
not only do you know your gemstones, but you know your ports.
Well,
I meant to say 130.
the belt's kind of heavy. But here's the big thing. I actually am surprised that the pricing on this, given that it's a finished bottle, it's a really affordable finished bottle, and knowing the price almost makes me want to edge it to a green because it was kind of borderline. And let's face it, at the end of the day, price matters.
$42 is very affordable.
$42 is incredibly affordable.
Well, and it's a distillery that none of us have ever heard of.
No.
So interesting. Go find it. You can find it at our weekly whiskey partners. The Distiller's Cachet. However you want to say it, it's your implicit bias. We'll be back right after this.